Hello, everybody. We are back with another episode of One More Thing. Hopefully, you enjoyed the previous episodes so far. Please let me know what you think about all of them. I could really use some feedback, and also if there are anything in particular that you would like to see more of, like let's say interviews or certain topics that interests you more, just let me know. Right, you can just hit me up, DM me, or just put in the comments, or if you have my number, just text me and let me know how this show is doing. Could really use some like outside feedback. All right, so for today's episode, again, I got my notes right below the camera right here. This episode is titled Think About It. Okay, and I titled it this way because it essentially is a literal representation of what I have been doing, thinking about it. Okay, so on this episode, I wanted to share a few ideas that I believe are worth thinking about. I definitely have thought for quite some time about it. So after you watch this or you hear each point, maybe you can spend some time thinking about it, whether it makes sense to you, or how then, if it does make sense, can you apply it to your own life. And in this episode, I'm going to share seven of these ideas that I've been thinking about, things that have been just popping up in almost every aspect of my life. So it's like those kind of things where you realize are repeating again and again and again, even though it is a different aspect, like let's say dance or coaching, or even just in personal relationships, or just personal endeavors even, right? And I think why I wanted to make an episode on this, because I think it's also helping myself to be able to vocalize and express some of my struggles too, and to kind of normalize it in the sense. I think I've not been one to be very expressive about the things I struggle with very publicly. Hopefully as I do this more, it helps me to process the things I'm going through a little bit better. I hope, right? And I think as I share my experiences, there's still a lot more to understand and dive into these ideas. So these reflections, I would call it, that I'm sharing is not really the full picture, I would say. I think there's still, like I said, a lot more to go into. But at this point, I just want to try to vocalize and share with all of you what I have reflected upon and found out about these things. Yes. All right. So first one, let's get into it right away. So the first one, this point or this thought is basically what you are actually bad at, or if you want to phrase it in a question, is what are you actually bad at? So think about it. So I'm going to repeat this phrase, think about it, a lot in this episode. So first one, think about it. We are not actually bad at what we do. We're bad at what it takes to be good. Right? So how I came about this is this perspective came to me as an epiphany when I was talking to my dancers. Right? So as a coach, it is my job to be there to motivate my dancers, be there to coach my dancers, be there to help them understand how does certain things work, why are certain things not happening the way it should be, right? And I'm always a cheerleader, right? If for those of you who know me as a coach, I'm always very like, let's go, right? I'm always looking for the best in every student and trying to be as constructive in every aspect, right? So naturally, I always aim to be specific in constructive criticism, right? Rather than just saying general feedback like, y'all can be better, right? Oh, I think it can be better still, right? So um I'll definitely use like all these general feedback as like a easing in method before the key points. But I always feel like those are really too general. Like, hey, slowly improving. I believe y'all can do it. I'll definitely still use it, but there will always be a main point after that, right? A specific way to be better, or a specific way to help them understand how is it slowly improving. Right. So anyway, my priority is development more than anything, given the age range and experience of the dancers I work with. Right. So usually they are in their teens, early teens. Right. So secondary school and maybe a bit into the tertiary age range. Right. So of course, in that context, right, at the standard and age range that they are at, right, I really honestly don't think that any dancer is bad, because again, if you think about it in the bigger perspective, right, if you are showing up for your dance sessions, right, and if you are at least, you know what's that word, competent, if you're at least competent in some of the basic techniques that we as instructors give you, like isolations, rhythms, body awareness, some coordination, then essentially you are already better than the average person, right? So you are not a bad dancer, right? So compared to an average Joe, right, they can dance, right? So however, they always exist in between the average and good. So it's like the awkward limbo area that I can't say you're good, but I also won't say you're bad. Right? I wouldn't like go up to them and it's like you are the shit. You're such a good dancer, right? But I also wouldn't say that you are a bad dancer. Right? So furthermore, when anyone is in that beginner limbo level, there just isn't that confidence or knowledge yet to grow out of it. Right? Like I can just tell that they know that they can dance. Like I can see in their eyes and the way that they do their movements that they kind of know that they can dance, right? But also like they don't know how to dance, right? It's like just the confidence isn't there, but they are able to execute the moves, right? So basically, in a more professional term, is low self-efficacy, right? If you don't know what self-efficacy means, go look it up. Right, so as a result, no amount of technical feedback or motivation will make much of a dent because of their lack of motivation and confidence. Okay, so this is the scenario. Okay, story time. This is how I first came up with this, or like verbalized this thought. So my dancers and I are a week away from a big show. Right, so I've been giving them the technical feedback, right, not the general ones like, okay, so this specific thing has to be better, this execution needs to be this, okay, your expressions need to match up to the energy that your body is giving and the song, etc., etc. Right, I've also given stories from my personal experience as a dancer and a performer. Okay, what are the things that you probably will regret if you don't work on it now, right? And then reminders and important things and much more of that, right? So if, again, you are a coach, right? You've coached before, or you have even, been in a point of reminding people what to do, after a while, it kind of gets very overwhelming, right? Like even you as the one saying it, you feel overwhelmed because there's so many things to take note of, and you just know that some of it will get forgotten or it will just be like jumbled up because there's just so many things to remember, right? So I think I was going on about being more independent and purposeful in practicing, like being serious about it, and having confidence. And out of nowhere, I said something like, having danced many performances and competitions, y'all need to understand what I'm saying, right? It is either y'all understand and work on it now, or don't work on it now and understand it when y'all make these mistakes for yourself, right? So then, again, I was still talking to them, right? So then y'all would think, oh, I cannot dance, I suck at dance, etc. But the reality is that you don't suck at dance, You suck at your attitude. You suck at doing the things that can make you good. Right? So again, for context, we're not talking about like world-class dancers or like fully professional dancers, right? But these are just students who are doing dance as an extracurricular activities, given that some of them have the passion for dance, and maybe some of them take those additional classes outside and they compete outside and everything. But again, it's just at that standard, like not just physical standard, but cognitively and mentally developing still, right? Being able to understand all this. So again, it's not that they are bad at dance, right? But it is the things that make you good. That is the things that you are not, let's say, at the same level with, right? If someone actually can do my choreography, you actually need coordination, rhythm sense, and more, right? If you have done my choreographies before, it's not, it may seem like it's easy. I don't know why this always happens, but somehow when I watch my own dance even, right, I'm like, it looks so easy compared to how actually tough and physically demanding it actually is when you do it like in person. You yourself are doing it. You are out of breath. Your muscles are like exhausted. Your lungs are burning. But then when you watch a video of it, it's like, that does not look at all like how it felt. Right? So point is, if you have done my choreography, you know that you need a certain level of coordination and etc. Right? So the dance isn't the issue, right? If you can perform or execute my dance piece at a certain level, the dance is not the issue, right? The issue is the way it's done, right? So what does it take to become good at something? Now that is the thing that we suck at, and we have to face it, right? So what are these things? Putting in the time, enduring the conditioning, trying, being disciplined, and all that stuff, right? It is the things that make a champion compared to someone who is just good at it but they don't have those qualities, right? So if we say we suck at dance, then literally there is no hope to be good, because if we believe that we suck at dance, then like, if you really think about it, right? If we really believe we suck at dance, then there is definitely no way or no possible way that we can then become good at it. Because if you say we suck at dance, that is a fact, right? It is not like a maybe we suck at dance. We are definitively saying, oh, we suck at dance, right? It's like saying, I suck at flying. Yeah, I can't fly, right? So if maybe we, by saying that we suck at dance and all that, right, is just trying to comfort ourselves to justify why we underperformed, to avoid the reality that we fell short of our capabilities, right? But in that comfort, we unknowingly label and put ourselves in a box that we learn to then believe is true, right? So even if we don't suck at dance, but we say we suck at dance so that we don't have to face the reality that we fell short of what we are able to do, we put ourselves in that box, and slowly we learn to accept that as the truth, right? And our brain cannot differentiate between what is a lie and what is not a lie. It will just believe whatever we tell ourselves, and if we keep telling ourselves that we suck at dance, it's going to become true, right? So however, if we believe that we have the ability to dance, right, it is just the process we suck at, right? It's something more actionable that can be changed, right? We suck at the process, right? The process can change, right? We can do a lot more things to change you can do a lot more things that transforms the process rather than the amount of things that we can change in dance. Dance is dance, right? The process has many different things that you can, the amount of inputs you can put into the process is a lot more than dance, right? So if we tell ourselves that we suck at the process, right, it is a little bit more realistic, number one, because that is true. We suck at the process of being good. And number two, it helps us to then focus on the actual thing that will make a difference. And it is easier to change the process of becoming good than just sucking at something. Right? So think about it, right? Are we actually bad at what we do? Or are we just bad at doing what it takes to become good? So what are we telling ourselves and believing? And that is the first thought. What are we actually bad at? Moving on. Next one. Second. So think about it. This is the input-output equation. So the desire to want something new and better is one of the most natural desires of the world or in life, right? Though we oftentimes stick to doing the same routine things while expecting better things to come. So think about it. If 1 + 1 equals to 2 and we want to get to 3, we need to change the equation in order to get the desired result, right? If we want 3 and we keep using 1 and 1, it's never going to get to 3, right? So mathematically, we understand that, right? So we have to find a way to use this to understand the bigger picture, right? Apply this concept in the grand scheme of things, like transcend it beyond math, right? So again, I think the easiest way I can explain this is to dance and coaching, because that is the biggest part of my life. But again, just try to see how you can apply this into your own experiences, right? So the most common goal for any secondary school dancer is to be in a competitive team, right? Represent on stage, go outside and perform. So whether it is SYF or Super 24 or something else, right? So however, why a lot of dancers do not achieve that goal is simply because they want a bigger output and are not changing their input. Either it is that, or they do not know that their input is not enough. So through my years of coaching, the number of dancers who want to do well, right, is too many to count. Like really, it's a lot. I've taught like over 8 years and count the number of schools, like 3-4 schools. Each batch is like 20. That's like, I can't do the math, man. But yeah, too many to count. Right? But the number of dancers who actually do well is only like a handful per batch. Right? Like, if you get a best case scenario, it's like maybe half who actually do well. Right? So this is not to say good or bad. Right? I'm not here to bog down on like, oh, good people versus bad people, or whatever it is. But it's just the focus more on the input versus output, right? So those who do well usually have the input to match the output, right? So if you are interested to know how to figure out the input and output, let me tell you how, and then you can think about it, right? Okay, so before I'll let you know how, right? So the input and output basically is okay, so yeah, so input is like what you put in, right? What am I talking about? Okay, so it's the things that matter, right? So like your effort, your time, your sacrifice, your dedication, your sacrifice. I said that already, right? And then your output are the things that you want, right? Like let's say you want to be in a team, you want to dance well, etc., etc., etc. Right? So first you gotta self-reflect and think about what you have done so far. So what are your current inputs, right? So for all the unattained outcomes, right? So for all the outcomes that you have desired to get but didn't get, whatever inputs you have given is not enough. So you can conclude at this point that if you want to aim for the same outcome, you have to put in more, right? Because now your input is lower than what is needed to attain the output. So find out what is more, put in more, and be consistent, right? Then on the flip side, for the outcomes that you have attained, right? So the outcomes you have set for yourself and then you have attained them. So the amount of input you put in for those outcomes is sufficient, right? So what good inputs did you put in? Repeat and make it better. So that's the first one, okay? Now, second, if you are new to the game, right? So what I mean by new to the game, if you are a freshie, you're new in the group, you have a new coach, a new teacher, right? You're the understudy, right? So look out for who is achieving the outcome you want and analyze what is their input. So how much time, sacrifice, focus, etc. are they putting in? Do the same, or if you can, do more. Honestly, it does not matter even if you are a newbie or not, right? Even if you're like a midway through your journey, or even if you're already, excelling at your journey, there's always going to be someone who does more or is achieving more, right? So apply the same structure, right? Find out what those who are achieving more are putting in, because if that is the outcome you want, they are achieving the outcome you want, then they are definitely putting in enough input to get the output. Correct? So you have to then study what are they putting in so that you can either replicate it or double it. Right? So sometimes we are so caught up in jealousy or personal emotions that it prevents us from doing so. Right? Like let's say this person is doing a lot better than me and I'm just like super jealous, like blah, blah, blah. And then I just totally ignore that person. Whereas I can take that jealousy aside and then, sorry, I got a call, but I'm gonna ignore it. So take that jealousy aside and then just analyze objectively, right? This person is achieving something that I want, right? And obviously they are doing something that works. So instead of just ignoring and being petty and jealous, I should be trying to analyze what are they doing right, so that I can either do it for myself or do more, right? So as long as what they are doing is ethical, I must say that, right? So of course, if they are doing it in an unethical way, don't replicate that, right? As long as what they're doing is ethical, just, and proper, right? We don't have to be best friends to realize that what they're doing works, right? You can respect and learn from someone's achievements and efforts without having to be besties with that person. And lastly, if you really want to know what input is required, who better to ask than the person in charge of giving you those opportunities, right? The person you're trying to earn it from, right? In a team, it's the coach or the boss. In business, it is your clients, right? And if it's a personal endeavor, then it is yourself, right? So who are you earning the opportunity from knows exactly what input is needed to get the output. Whatever they tell you, that is what it takes, nothing less. Think about it again. Who decides and knows what is needed to earn something? The person you are trying to earn it from, right? So for example, if I am the one in charge of putting together a team for this competition, right? I make the decision. That means I know what I am looking for in order to put whoever is in the team, right? So if now let's say my dancers know that I'm looking for someone and then they just work by themselves and like, okay, they are working hard and everything. But if what I'm looking for is more of the ability to work with one another as compared to the skills, the technical skills, right? I prioritize the ability to work together, communication, and being selfless. I'm looking more for that than the actual techniques, right? But then my dancers or some dancers are so focused on the technique that they are just helping themselves, right? They're not working together with their teammates because they want to be in a team, right? And because the goals are misaligned, right? Whatever that they need to do, whatever they are doing is not what I'm looking for, then they don't get it, right? And then they feel like, oh, this, right? But if in the first place they know exactly, right? You find out exactly what it is that whoever is in charge of giving you the opportunity wants, then it's going to be so much easier. You have a target to aim for. You know exactly what to do, and it becomes so much easier, right? So again, if you have no idea, what are the inputs that are needed, then who better to ask than the one in charge of giving you the opportunity, right? And again, whatever they say it takes, then that's what it takes. You don't get to negotiate or like strike a deal with like, oh, if I give you this much, will you, or what if I give you this instead of that, right? It takes what it takes, right? In order for you to qualify for Olympics, you have to, like for example, in I would say running or whatever, I'm sure you have a cutoff time. You can't negotiate with them and say like, oh, if I'm good at this event but not this event and blah 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 blah, right? It takes what it takes, right? There is a set input needed to get a certain output, right? If you want that output, you have to give this amount of input, nothing less. You can give more, sure, but this is the minimum, and that is what it takes, right? So those 3 points, right, from first to last, is in a decreasing order of autonomy. What I mean by that is to say that if you are starting out and need guidance, follow the last one first, right? The last one being ask what is the input, right? If you know you have maturity, experience, and self-awareness, try the first one, because self-reflection requires a little bit more of maturity, self-awareness, introspection, right? Thinking about the things you have achieved, what was your input, the things you have not achieved, what was your input, and then you adjust accordingly, right? And then if you're anywhere in between, maybe the second is better, right? Where you follow an example, someone who has achieved whatever you want, right? Follow whatever inputs they're given, try to give more. Right, so spend some time thinking about this and make it make sense to you, so you know what you need to do. So again, the thought is a different result requires a different input. This is the input-output equation that I have been thinking about. Next one. So this next one, again, I just give it a title because it helps me just give it a point. So this one is automatic comparative assumption. So think about it. Better than shit is still shit. Worse than elite is still pretty good. The point is that we always think based on black and white. So simply put, this is the automatic assumption we always formulate in our heads when we are either being compared to or are the ones comparing something. Correct? So what it is that we have a polarizing assumption when we are in a comparative situation. So for example, I say that this chicken rice from this store is better than the chicken rice from the store over there. Or someone says that this teammate is better than me, right? Says to you, right? This teammate is better than me. So automatically, again, for the chicken rice situation, we assume that there is one good chicken rice store and the other one is just bad, because this is better than that. So this has to be good, that has to be bad, right? Or similarly, the teammate situation, if someone tells you that this teammate is better than me, so you would think that this teammate is good, I'm bad, right? I must have some bad qualities about myself that does not make me as good as this person, right? But in actual fact, maybe that we are both super good, just that this person is just maybe a little bit better, right? Or maybe in a chicken rice situation, they're both amazing, just that maybe this one is just a bit better than this one, right? So better than shit can still be shit, right? And worse than elite level can still be way above average, right? So why do we do this? This is the thought that I then ask myself, right? Why do we automatically assume that if we say this is better than something, that something must be bad, right? So rationally, I think this is the simplest way our brain sorts out this information, right? So it's easier to label things as good or bad, right, than to sort them out on a sliding scale of degree of good and bad. Like, again, think about it like 100, 0 to 100, right? You have 100 different categories where something can be. Thinking about it, our brain is already like, oh, it's so complicated, right? Like, I must rank, hey, let's say I have 100 chicken rice stores. I must rank them from 0 to 100. That is going to be so complicated, right? But if I just say, okay, which ones are good and which ones are bad, it's so much easier, right? You just think about it, okay, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, 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 good, 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 kind of thing, right? So I think it's just the simplest way our brain just understands information. It just chucks one into good and one into bad, right? And then again, what implications does this have in our lives? Okay, so well, let's say I'm coaching a team and we're coming out of a rut, right? We have started to make a small upturn. So we're in a bad place, we're starting to improve. So I tell them out of encouragement that today everyone did better. So using the automatic assumption, we think that everything is already good. We are doing better. That means we must be good, right? Or whatever that we have done, right, the effort that we have put in is all that is needed, and maybe we just need to keep doing the same, right? So we just keep putting in the same amount of effort. Right? We don't even try to go a bit more because what we have done seems to be enough to make us good. However, better than shit is still shit, right? So if let's say we are at 0%, if we are better by 1%, we are at 1%. It is better, but it is still 1 out of 100, right? Even better by 0.1% is insignificant, but it is better because there is an increase, right? So progress is progress, yes, but truthfully, everyone is definitely capable of more, because what we think is good, because we think it is good, we unknowingly settle for slow growth instead, right? So we think that 1% increase coming out of a rut, we increase by 1%, we think it is good, but it's a super small and maybe even insignificant growth, right? But because we automatically assume, because we don't have this like 1% concept in our head, we just know better, right? Good or bad. Now it's good. So we just keep doing the same thing, which is just that small growth. Whereas we are actually capable of giving even more so that we grow even faster, right? So essentially we think ourselves as good enough, even though the better is not up to standard yet. On the other hand of the spectrum, right, in a high performing team where everyone is, let's say, elite level, right? Like, let's say, talking about an Olympic team, and because I know Olympics are coming, so that's the first thing I think about. Or yeah, maybe even just like a really just super high performing level team, right? So one of the members is compared to another teammate in performance. So comparatively, yes, he or she, right, is not as good as the teammate, but in reality, they are all still elite level, right? So the athlete being compared then assumes that they are lousy because of this automatic assumption and gets in their own head even more. So if you've ever had this where, you've been compared to a teammate and you are the one being compared, that means you are the one. Okay, let's just say they say that you are worse than your teammate, or you're not as good as your teammate. So the automatic thing is to go through all the bad things, the bad qualities of yourself. So what happens is we may exaggerate or just blow it out of proportion about how bad we actually are. But again, maybe let's say that you are one of the handful that are the better one in the teams. In reality, you are still one of the better ones, even though maybe you are not as good as the best one. So we start to get into our own heads. We start to mess things up. We start to self-doubt. We start to question ourselves. We start to lose confidence because of this automatic comparative assumption. So this can definitely lead to mental health struggles and even more. Even more so, let's say we are told that this person is not as good as someone else, we automatically assume that they have a problem, right? Hey, why is this person not as good as the other person? This person must, again, have some kind of bad quality to them that makes them not as good comparatively to this person. So all this is not to say that better than shit will always be shit and worse than elite is still always good, but to say that this polarizing assumption framework is what we always use. So what we need to understand and think about is that comparative words work on a scale. If you need to imagine something, right? Imagine a 0 to 100. Like I said just now, the scale from 0 to 100. 2 over 100 is better than 1 over 100. 99 upon 100 is worse than 100 over 100. That is in a nutshell, that's what I tried to verbally explain through examples just now. Also, think and understand that everyone's scale is different. Someone's 70 over 100 can be your, let's say, 80 over 100. Meaning their 50 out of 100 is still about a 60 over 100 for you. And what if that person really just works on a 0 to 100 basis? Anything below 100 essentially is 0. Think about it as you try to, decipher how people compare things, how you are compared to other things, and how you yourself compare things and all that. Everybody's scale, right, is very different. And some don't even have a scale. Some are just 0 and 100, good or bad. So sometimes we need to be self-critical or have a critical thinking and analytical thinking to decipher and understand what it is that people really mean, and not like resort automatically to this, what I term automatic comparative assumption. So think about that. Next one. So this is the knowledge and choice relationship. So the relationship basically is this. So think about it, right? So if we know what something is and we say we do, then acting the opposite by default is then choosing to not be. So story time. Why I phrased it like the way I did and used acting, is because I formed this verbally first when I was teaching a class. So it was an enrichment class. This is a class where people or students have to learn dance. So it's not really their choice. So of course they're not going to be too enthusiastic about dancing and hence not so focused. Right. So about halfway through the lesson, the group of students were getting a bit loud and more restless. So I paused the class and waited for them to realize that me and some of the other more quiet students, right, were waiting for them to settle down. After a minute or two, they settled down and I no longer had the patience to keep repeating this process. So I asked one of the students, the more noisy one and the more restless one, if he knew what respect was. So he replied, yes. I then asked him, so why are you choosing to not be respectful? So obviously he did not reply, but it's okay. I replied for him. I continued to say, you just told me you know what respect is. So isn't it then a choice to be it or not? So if you had told me that you did not know what respect was, then I will understand why you are behaving as such. But then I will also question, why did no one teach you what respect is? Maybe you are not sure what respect is, or maybe you are just a disrespectful person. But I believe you know and you want to be a respectful person. So are you going to choose to be respectful or disrespectful? Right. So again, if you weren't able to follow that train of thought, if this student, right, if someone says that they know what respect is and they admittedly say that they do know what respect is, but at the point of time they are not being respectful, so that by default shows that they are choosing not to be respectful. right? Compared to if they have no idea what respect is, then of course they would not know how to be respectful. Correct. So it's an unconscious choice, yes, but it is still a choice that they essentially made, right? So think about it. If we say we know something, like confidently know it and we admit it, but we don't show it, does it make sense for people to assume or deduce that we chose not to show it? There can be an argument, like I said just now, about conscious choice and unconscious choice. But if we believe unconscious choice is an excuse, why would conscious people choose war or violence or conflict? Only the unconscious would. So should they then be excused too? Right. So again, very political and all this. Don't want to get too in depth about it, but if let's say these leaders of the world say that they are respectful people and they, have these values, yada yada yada, right? But then why are they not showing it? So if we say that we should excuse people because they are unconscious about the choice, then if we apply that to everything, should we then excuse people for choosing unconsciously to retaliate to things in a certain way? Right. So who we want to be, we have to know. And what we know, we have to choose to show. So that is the knowledge and choice relationship. So think about that. Next one. I don't even know which one is this. I think this is the fifth or sixth one already. I think it's the fifth one. So next one is who we listen to. We always ignore people with more wisdom and experience, but we listen to people who are as clueless, if not more clueless than us, and headed nowhere. If we really spent some time thinking about whose opinion we value, we would come to the realization that we alone are the cause of our mediocrity. So why do we fall victim to this? So think about that for a minute, right? So why do we listen to people who do not know better than us, right? And why do we ignore the people who actually have wisdom and the experience, or even can tell us the input to the output that we want? We keep ignoring them, right? Like coaches, teachers, parents, etc. But we listen to our friends who don't know any better than us, right? So the value lies in the eyes of the beholder. What I mean by this is that although we understand value in wisdom, experience, and all that stuff, we just don't value it how we should. So we know that these things are valuable, but we do not value it. Maybe what we value more at this point in our life is social acceptance and companionship. Hence, we do things that bring us towards what we value, no matter the sacrifice. For example, if what I value is fitting in with this particular group of friends, it is then of more importance in my mind to act, think, and behave in a similar way as them, irregardless of other external source structures like rules, guides, or instructions. So it is easier to be a part of a group than it is to be alone, and therefore the influence of a desired herd will always supersede any individual compass unless they have an unwavering character and consciousness. If we think about it deeper, then why can't we use this automatic desire to fit in as a positive and not a negative? Okay, so again, if let's say my desire right now is to, or what is of importance to me is to have companionship, right? That will be my number one priority, and all my actions and decisions and who I listen to and who I don't listen to will be based on what helps me attain that goal of having companionship. So of course I would do the things that I feel this group that I'm trying to fit in with will accept me. Whatever it, even if it's bad things, even if it's questionable things, even if it's not great advice, but it's because knowing that if I do this, these people will see me as one of them. Hence, I want that. So that's what I will do. Even if you know that there are rules against it and people advise you against it, but in your mind, those things do not bring you towards companionship. In fact, they bring you away from it, right? Because if you don't do that, then these people will be like, you're not with us. Go over there. So this is why I feel these things happen, right? It's down to what we value. So again, the value is in the eyes of the beholder, right? So in this point, this companionship is more valuable than wisdom and experience and knowledge, right? So if we have a choice of who we want to be, then why are we choosing to use this quality in a negative way, right? So what if we hold out on fitting in until we find a group that is aligned with who we want to be, right? So if let's say you know who you want to be, right? Instead of changing who you want to be to fit into a group, why not you stick with who you want to be and change who you want to fit in with, right? So we are just a little bit more of the delayed gratification, right? We find a group of people who are more aligned to who we want to be. It's going to take a longer time for sure, right? Rather than just trying to fit in with the first group we see, or the first group that interacts with us, right? A lot of people are stuck in a less than conducive environment of companionship because bonds have already been formed, and stepping away from the current biggest life object value is not going to happen. So they would rather stay and compromise their constitution than venture out and find a more aligned group of company. If the people you are with do not share the same ambition as you, not willing to work as hard as you, not willing to grow with you, but you've been with them for a long time and you're shortchanging your own capabilities because you're trying hard and caring for something is what everyone says is lame, then you are in this situation. So I've seen this many times, right? Again, I think the most common period this happens is in the teenage years, because this is the time where we want to have companionship, right? We don't want to be alone. We want to have friends and we want to fit in. So we oftentimes latch on to our group of friends, right? And again, there are good friends and there are bad friends, and sometimes the desire to have companionship blinds us to differentiate between the good and bad, right? We just are appreciative, and we should be, that we have companions, right? And sometimes these group of friends are not conducive, let's just put it that way, right? But we see such a value, this companionship, that we do not see the bad side of it. We do not see that it is not conducive. Or even then we see that it's not conducive, but we are not able to step away from it because we are afraid of losing this valuable thing of companionship, right? So again, if you are not sure whether you're in this, then again, think back, or just think about the group of friends you are with, right? Are they as ambitious as you in terms of your goals? Are they in the same trajectory as you? Do they share the same drive as you? Are they willing to work as hard as you? Are they willing to step out of their comfort zones and grow as much as you, right? If they are not, then it is time to find a new group of friends who are more aligned with what you are aiming for in this stage of your life. This is not to say totally cut off yourself from your current friends or old friends. They can still be friends, but it's just who you are aligning yourself with, right? So I think it's more of don't overly attach yourself to one group of friends. You know, it's good to have friends, but sometimes too much of a good thing is also bad. Yeah, I think let's just put it that way. So what happens is all the external opportunities, advices, teachings, etc. is also gonna go over your head too if you are still with this group of friends who are not as determined or, you know, as you, like, yeah. So if we have conditioned ourselves to behave in a certain way, there is no on-off switch. So this is what we need to do. We need to take away all the emotion and analyze everything in front of us. So who is in our life right now that shares the same ambition as us? Who is or are doing the things you hope and aim to do one day? Who is the person whom is the closest to you who you actually want to be right now? And who around you is growing and taking action to become better, as well as bettering those around them? Who you think of and also do not think of is the direction you need to take for yourself. So whoever pops up into your mind, let's say if you're thinking about who in my life right now is achieving things that I hope to achieve one day. Those people that pop up in your head are the people that you should start to hang out with or try to be closer with. And then who you do not think about but you are close to right now are those that maybe you don't want to spend as much time with, right? In terms of striving way, right? Let's say you want to go and be productive. These are the people you maybe don't want to be too around. But if you want to have fun, call them up, right? Let's hang out and everything. But if you want to be in a productive environment, then yeah, whoever you think and don't think about in these scenarios are the direction you need to take. So think about it. Why value the opinions of someone who does not have what you want? Why listen to people who are not aiming to be where you want to be? Do we need to fit in everywhere, or can we just fit in with the people headed in the same direction? And that is that point. This is the who we listen to. All right, almost there. 2 more. So next one. Okay, so this is what should we focus on? So think about it. All growth is change, but not all change is growth. All progress is movement, but not all movement is progress. All good advice is an opinion, but not all opinions are good advice. A good result can only come from doing or receiving the right things. Don't focus on the result, focus on what, as well as how we are doing or receiving things. Additionally, just because something can be bad, we shouldn't shy away from it as a whole. So if you understand the, maths is like this subset and sets, like, I don't know, this Venn diagram thing, whatever it is, right? So seen as a framework or concept, it is like subsets. I don't know what's the term for it. Maths has been so long ago. But yeah, so subset is like something that is a part of a bigger thing. So everything good is a subset of something bigger, right? Within that something bigger also lies this bad subset and neutral subset. So let's take, for example, growth. Although we typically associate growth with positive change, growth by itself is neither good nor bad. If you just take the word alone, right? Growth, right? So it just simply explains that something is getting bigger, right? You grow means it gets bigger, right? So a villain can grow into a bigger villain, and a hero can grow into a bigger hero. So again, there is no good or bad. I would like to label growth as the result in that case, right? So growth is just going from something small to something big, right? By focusing on any result, nothing happens, because how things happen is by focusing on doing the work. So think about it. If I sit here for 2 days thinking about and focusing on growth, I'm just thinking and I'm focusing growth, nothing is going to happen. Right? So in order for something to happen, I have to go and do something. So now let's say I get up, right, and I go do something that helps me grow. right? So for example, if I want to improve my rhythm basics in dance, I go out and put on my hip hop mix and set 30 minutes of work to be done. So in my head, if I put in 30 minutes, I think about it, right? So before I do it, I think, okay, if I put in 30 minutes of work, I will definitely grow for sure, right? Yes and no, maybe. So yes, my body will be active, my brain will recall the movements, I feel accomplished, but that's about it, right? What do I mean? If I had already told myself 30 minutes of work should be enough for some growth, I am already focused on the result, not the process, because I have assigned a time that I think will help me grow. The key is will help me grow. Right? I am focused on the result, not the process. Chances are that throughout the practice, I would have been looking at the clock, waiting for 30 minutes to pass. Also, humans cannot multitask. Hence, if we are focused on the result of growth and making it to the end, then we are not focused on the details, the quality, the execution, etc. And those are the things that actually result in good growth, right? So the only growth that ended up happening is the growth in the belief that we are improving when we are really not. Think about it. We have only improved in the belief that we are growing when we are actually not growing. We think we are growing, but we're actually not, because we are just focused on time passing. Because 30 minutes, just by doing 30 minutes of work, should help me grow. But the work might not be purposeful, because all I'm thinking about is the 30 minutes up. I just want to get past these 30 minutes. So the end does not justify the means. Normally it is used in extreme cases like cheating or what have you. But think, how can this apply to everything that we do? Our desire to grow does not justify putting in empty hours for the sake of it. Our desire to learn does not justify taking and acting on the opinions of everybody. Similarly, our desire to stick to our beliefs does not justify ignoring every and all opinions out there. So think about it. It is not about what we want to do, but how we do it. So what should we focus on? Yeah, and that is that point. All right, last but not least, the 7th point. This one is a little bit long, but let's get into it. So this is the unconscious confidence paradox. Confidence comes from evidence, but we feel like we need confidence to create evidence. So we procrastinate creating evidence, perpetuating a cat and mouse game between the two, when in reality, all we need is courage to create evidence. And even blind faith is courage. The bad evidence will make the good ones obvious, and the good ones count towards your evidence. So to understand this a bit more, I got this quote from Alex Hormozy. He says, "You don't get confidence by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are." So using an example to explain it, if I have done what I set out to do 9 out of 10 times, I would be more confident that I will be able to do what I set out to do than if I had only done it once, or even if I had just told myself I could do it 100 times. If I know I have perfected the small skills that are needed to succeed, the chances of succeeding are higher than if I have never tried before, but tell myself I can still do it. So the problem then comes in the pursuit of gathering evidence, where we feel the lack of evidence to even start. So for example, new dancers who have the desire to be better, but are afraid to try because they are not confident. Right? So I have seen this many times. And I have always been curious to understand why do these dancers who desire to be great not have the desire or confidence to try. Right? So to understand this framework, again, let me try explain it one more time. Confidence comes from doing something before. You can't be confident in something you have never done. Right? You can only believe that you will be good at it. but you cannot be confident at doing something you have never done, right? So in order for you to be confident, you have to have done it before. But sometimes we think that in order to have to do something, we need to be confident first so that we can do it. So it's just like a cycle, right? I need to be confident to do something and achieve it, and then achieving it makes me confident. So it's like chicken and egg, which one comes first? So what I have found or am believing in is that we don't need confidence to achieve something. We need courage to try, right? Because we cannot be confident in something that we have never done before. We can only believe, right? So the purpose of confidence is to be self-assured in execution, right? It is important, but mainly so in latter stages and phases of progress. So think about it. Who is born confident of something? Who starts out confident at the skill? Confidence comes into play when we become competent in what we are doing. Confidence should not be as important when we start out, because we lose our confidence when we fall short of our perceived competence. So if we say we are confident in something at the beginning stages of our progress, right, and then we don't succeed because naturally we are not good at it, right, because we are only in the early stages, we're going to lose our non-existent confidence because we think by being confident that we are competent in it, we can do it, but we fail at it because we are actually below the level of competence we believe we are at, right? So if we prioritize confidence when we are incompetent in reality, obviously we will only reduce our already low confidence. Like, it's already 0. How much can you negative 10 confidence, right? So I think that is why a lot of people are afraid, these days to try. So what we need actually is more courage than confidence in the early stages of evidence gathering, right? So why do I say this is because if you think about it, courage does not care if we succeed or fail. If I fail at doing something courageous, it does not affect my ability to then be courageous again, right? It just affects my belief that I whatever I thought about my ability of this, right? But I can be courageous again, right? So especially if we have a mature and growth mindset, right, it brings in what we need, which is the information and experience that is very, very, very valuable. And if we are courageous enough to do something, and even if we succeed or even if we fail, we still get that experience and information. We can be courageous in doing things we are not certain about, but we cannot be confident in doing things that we are not certain about. So what is courage, right? Let's put a definition to it. So courage is defined as the choice or willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. And again, what we're dealing here with is uncertainty, right? We want to be confident in things that we are not sure we can do. We're not certain about it, right? And logically, if again you take the definition of confident, you cannot be confident in something you have not done. So confidence does not apply. What applies is courage, right? So if we take that mindset and that framework, right, courage to create evidence, then the evidence becomes your confidence. Then it makes a little bit more sense. Okay, and now that we talk about courage, right, you're asking yourself, do I have courage? Like, how do we get courage? And I'm gonna tell you this, right? We all have courage, but most of the times they are just displaced. Okay, so let me give you some examples. When we choose to not do our homework and we go into class hoping to not get called out, that is courage, right? So when we choose to do something against the rules and hope to not get caught, that is courage. When we get bad results and have to show it to our parents, that is courage. When we choose to talk back to our teachers or parents, that is courage. Because we don't know how they're going to reply, right? Are they going to scold us? Are they going to do it? Right? When we show bad results, you know that they're going to scold you and whatever, but you have to do it. That is courage, right? That is the choice or willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. We only have so much energy to be courageous, but we unknowingly spend it all on the wrong things and think we don't have courage because we no longer have to have the energy to be courageous when it matters. Furthermore, for all the wrong times you showed courage, has it always resulted in a good result? So if you can be courageous for the wrong things and get bad results, why can't you be courageous for the good things and get bad results? The difference is that one time it becomes a good result. For the wrong things, if you get a good result from being courageous for the wrong things, you perpetuate your bad character. If you get a good result for being courageous at the good thing, you create evidence to build your confidence. So where are you spending your courage? Right? So if you are still thinking, do you have courage? You have. It's just where are you spending it? Are you using it to gather evidence to be confident? Or are you using it to perpetuate your bad habits? And then think about it further. How much more confidence could you have by now if you have used that courage for the right things? So don't be stuck in this unconscious confidence paradox. That's a tongue twister. Don't be stuck in this unconscious confidence paradox, right? Thinking that in order for you to be confident in something, you need evidence, and in order for you to create evidence, you must have confidence. No. Maybe that works in the latter stages. When you already have evidence to build your confidence, and then that confidence allows you to then, be a little bit more assured in your courage to get more evidence, right? But when you are starting out, right, you don't need confidence. You need courage. Courage to fail, courage to succeed, courage to do things that you have never done before. And the sooner you do those things, the sooner you fail, the sooner you succeed, the sooner you try things, the sooner you're going to get the evidence that you need, right? And when you get bad evidence, right, like things that don't work out, it just makes the good ones even more obvious. So for every 10 bad things that you're going to get, I think one of them are going to be good. Maybe not in that ratio, but you are definitely going to get more bad evidence than good ones. But you don't have to use all the evidence as your evidence, right? You can learn from all the bad evidence, but you just have to then apply it to make the good ones happen, and then get those good ones as your evidence for your confidence. Yeah. So these are my 7 think about it. I might do more in the future. If you liked whatever you have heard so far, let me know so I know to do more of these think about it. I think that's quite it rolls off your tongue, rolls off your tongue, think about it. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed these 7 think about it, and hopefully you think about it as well and apply it into your life wherever you feel is applicable. And again, if you haven't, please check out all my other episodes. There are some which go into more bigger topics like beliefs and passions and interests, which is the recent one. And then I even think my first one, which is starting something new. So if you are new to stuff, right? Like, what does it take to start something new? What is important? What do I feel we need to keep in mind when we start something new. Yeah, and also mental health. There's one episode on mental health I'm planning to do more in the future. Hopefully, I get to do that. And yeah, just help to share, like, and follow the show so that I can keep making more of these and yeah, give you all more information and insight. Yes. So that is all for this episode. This is the One More Thing episode, and I'm Ryan Wayne. Thank you so much for supporting, and see you next time. Peace.